Ett av ämnena på MIT:s årliga teknikkonferens i höstas var Hacking the Soul och inledningstalare för ämnet var Cristof Koch, forskningschef på Allen Institute for Brain Science. Han forskar om själen och medvetandet.
Where is consciousness located in the brain?
I can't tell you that. All I can tell you that it's associated with particular parts of the brain, but not with others. So we know, for example, it does not seem to be associated with the cerebellum. If you lose your cerebellum, you will not have loss of consciousness, but it is primarily associated with the cerebral cortex, the sheet on top of the brain that makes us distinctly and uniquely human.
And briefly, what methods do you use to study consciousness?
We use the same experimental methods that cognitive psychologists and animal neuroscientists use. So you manipulate what you, in our case, see, what you see. Sometimes there are many visual illusions where sometimes you see something and sometimes you don't. And so we can study this dissociation. You have the same constant input, but sometimes when you see it, certain parts of the brain are active, certain neurons are active. When you don't see it, we ask which neurons are not active anymore, which parts of the brain are not active anymore, depending on whether we're doing a human experiment on an animal experiment. But then you also need a theory. You need to develop theoretical insights. Why is any system conscious? Why is my immune system not conscious, for instance, but part of my brain, part of my nervous system is conscious? So we, in addition to experiment, you need theory.
So in your idea, what is the algorithm for consciousness?
It's not an algorithm. I believe we live in a universe where certain types of very complex systems that are informational integrated, and you can derive a mathematical calculus, are conscious, have experience. It's just the universe we live in. When you are very complex, such as the human brain or other animal brains, you have, it's an aspect of this complex piece of highly organized matter to have conscious states associated with it.
Given we could do a complex enough computer, would it eventually be able to be conscious, in your opinion?
In principle, yes. There's no reason why an artifact that's as complex or that mimics the complexity of the human brain could be conscious. There's no question about it, it could. Whether digital computers, however, that simulate, I'm not sure that you can able to simulate. So you can build a system that has consciousness, I'm not sure you can simulate it. It's a fine but very important distinction.
In what sense?
In the sense that if you simulate the weather, it will never be wet. If you simulate a rainstorm, you can perfectly simulate a rainstorm using software. It will never be wet inside the computer. Same thing, you can simulate aspects of consciousness, particular behavior, but that's very different from that computer actually being conscious, actually having conscious experience. They're totally different worlds, the real and the simulated.